I want to thank you all for coming. It's such a small group. I'm just going to talk from down here, so I don't have to climb up these stairs. Thank you for coming, and welcome to California's first theater. I would like to thank Monterey State Historic Park for co-sponsoring this event and allowing us to use this facility. The State Park and Monterey State Historic Park Association has been raising money for several years now to reopen it. It was closed, as you know, for about 10 years, and they're still raising money so that they can have heat. We're looking forward to heat sometime, and also for electrical upgrades. So it's still a project in progress, but they're working on it, and it is open for a lot of events like this from now on. I'm Mimi Sheridan, president of the Alliance of Monterey Area Preservationists, and this group was formed, and I forgot to ask Nancy, how many years ago, Nancy?
2004.
How many?
2004, we're 22 years old.
Okay, more than 20 years ago, this group was formed by a number of historical preservation organizations in the county coming together. And our main role, as many of you know, because you're members, is advocacy, looking for issues that come up, and then writing letters or doing education to advocate. I urge you to renew your membership, or if you happen to not be a member, to become a member, and there are membership envelopes at the front desk there. We have one item of business for our meeting, our annual meeting. Usually we have our annual meeting in a small place with just a few people, but here we wanted to open it up for more people, for the public. But we do have 3 people on the board running for re-election, and those are Nancy Runyon, who's in the back, you've probably met, James Carey of the Monterey County Historical Society, who is right here, and Raymond Neutra, who had to go to see his grandson in Palo Alto. He told me yesterday, but he was planning to come. And I'd also like to introduce, there are other board members here, I forgot that. Jeff Beckham here is the vice president, and Judy McClellan, and then Denise Estrada here is the secretary. So, if all the members would vote for the board members being elected, raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye, okay. I think that's a good vote. Well, Denise will note that as a positive vote. She does wonderful minutes. So every year, one of the main things we do is designate a preservationist of the year. It's really aimed at the people involved in preservation. This year, we were fortunate to find out about this wonderful project. We found out through Judy and Sal Munoz, another board member who are on the County Historic Resources Board, Historic Resources Review Board. They told us about this wonderful project, and I've got to tell you that this is, I think, the most impressive public preservation project around here in years because of how much work the county really had to step up to do the right thing for a National Register property. And it's too easy to either not do it very well or to just ignore properties like this. And so that's why we decided to do this. Now Denise is going to talk just a brief overview of the project and then introduce our speaker.
Thank you guys for being here today. What Mimi didn't say is we've had a history of the last year or so. It's brutal. We've been fighting for the Connell home, for the preservation of the equestrian center, and the outcomes were not good. It's been very disappointing. So when Mimi said, why are we happy to do this? We're happy for the project. It is a fantastic project. And we're also happy to be on the side of supporting a project in which there is so much support, and we're not chaining ourselves to part of the building and saying, thou shalt not. We are joining in supporting and thanking the hardworking folks, Francis and Luis and Glenn Church, who is not here. He is my district supervisor. He has been a real champion of historic preservation and supporting, I know, the Historic Society. He gave us a donation of county funds this year that allowed us to keep the first mayor's house open. So we're really proud to be a part of this and to celebrate it. This project is really, really important. It's gone through at least 3 lives, describing it as a salt box, to Gothic revival, to Queen Anne, and then the flood hit. And, you know, even its survival at that point was in jeopardy. But rather than go, let's pull the bulldozers in here and get rid of the mud and tear it down, the decision to support this project was really a welcome thing. I've worked for enough government entities to know that they don't all want to preserve things. They would rather take the easy road and just say, knock it down and let's start all over. That was not the case with this. Its history back to 1850. Meg, and I will introduce Meg, probably most of you know her anyway, but I think the fact that Meg took on this project with the support of the county supervisor and the great staff there is a little indicative of why this is so important. This lady has got a lot on her plate. Every time I talk to her, well, where are you working now that you're retired? And now it's Carmel or the Historic Trust or whatever. But the fact that we are able to be supportive of this project as an organization and support all of you who have done so much to make this a project, to save it as a county library. Glenn Church said he's going to have an office there. And so not too long in the future, we're going to see this project move forward. It is exciting for all of us. Much of the work we've done has been on the peninsula. This is, I think, and maybe you can correct me, I think this is the farthest north we've gone. It's kind of almost out of our range of being Monterey area preservationists, but it's an exciting project for all of us. We're anxious to see the doors open. So with that, I will introduce Meg. I've known Meg since before both of us had white hair, and worked with her on other projects. But if you don't know Meg, and I think most of you do, through her books, her many, many projects, it's hard to find a project in this county that this lady has not in some way had some influence on. And as an organization, I see James going, yeah. All of us have benefited from the work that she's done. So we're really happy to introduce her today so she can talk a little bit more about this very exciting project that we are calling our Preservationist of the Year Award. So with that,
Okay, so this is Diseño of Rancho Bolsa de San Cayetano. Hi, Sal. So this is where the Vallejo family lived, the Vallejo of Porter-Vallejo. This was their first rancho in California, granted to the family in 1824. So they built their very first house that they had in California here. It was called Casa Materna, or also known as the glass house, because it was a 2-story adobe, but it had windows, glass windows, which is really rare in 1824. So Casa Materna was located right here. And then their son, Juan Antonio Vallejo, inherited the property in 1855, and he built his house right there. Now up here you can see Watsonville. That little grid, that's Watsonville. Okay, so here's the house, and there's Watsonville, and there's the river. So unfortunately, Juan Antonio had a really bad roping accident. He was crossing the plains after a wild bull fell off his horse, broke his neck, dead at 40. So, his brother Mariano Vallejo took over the property. So we're going now to John Porter. So here comes John Porter. So John Porter was born in 1830 in Duxbury, Massachusetts, and he came west when he was 20 years old in 1850, and following all the Argonauts, coming to find gold in California. So first he landed in San Francisco, but then finally made his way up to the northern mines. I don't know if he found a fortune or not, but by 1853, he was down in Santa Cruz with his brother Jerome. And they had a saloon, they had a mercantile store, and they were running a tannery. So then, and I'm have to check my dates. In 1857, he was elected sheriff for Santa Cruz County. And so he stayed in that role until 1861, when Abraham Lincoln named him he was the collector of the Port of Monterey. So he moved from where he was up in Santa Cruz to Monterey. So during that time, about 1864, the property, Juan Antonio's property, was in foreclosure then. And so Porter bought it along with 200 acres and just sort of sat on it until he finished his term as collector. And then, but he always had his sights on the Pajaro Valley. That's where he was really going to make his fortune. So let me see, what did he do? Let me tell you what he did. He founded 2 banks. He owned the Loma Prieta Lumber Company. He was part owner of the Sparkles Beet Sugar Company up in SoCal. He had hundreds and hundreds of acres of both wheat and sugar beets. And he was in real estate like nobody's business. He owned a ton of real estate in Watsonville, but all around the region. This is his wife, Fanny Cummings Porter, and she was the first school teacher in Watsonville. They were married in 1859. But her job was to, backtrack a little. In the 1880s, Porter moved Watsonville's Chinatown across the river and right in front of his house. It was 50 yards in front of his house. And it was altruistic, but it was also self-serving because he needed Chinese labor for his fields. So he had 36 buildings right in front of his house there. At that time, the Chinatown was known as Brooklyn, like Watsonville's New York, and across the river is little old Brooklyn. So Fanny's job was to collect the rents in Chinatown. So she'd go there once a month. The Porters did provide rent-free 2 retirement homes for Chinese bachelors, as well as English language school. So this is the first remodel of the house. So what the building that Juan Antonio had built was a 1.5-story salt box. So it wasn't adobe, it was a wood framed house. It was a salt box house, 6 rooms. And let me go back. So when Porter bought it, he decided the Pajaro River already had a history of flooding. And so he decided, I've got to move this building to get it out of the floodplain. So he moved it basically across the road a little south to about here to its present location, thinking it was out of the floodplain. Okay, so clearly Porter was a successful businessman, very successful, and so he needed a house that said success. What better than this cute little Gothic revival confection here? So you can see that he added the very steep gables, he added these finials, he had this nice little balustrade, scallops along the deck, and the big addition here was this L. And so this is what we're looking at here is the east elevation. On the west elevation, it looked the same. The L was exactly the same. One of the things, so he has these 2-story bays, a 1-story bay, but I want you to look at also the vertical hatching in the siding here. That was even though he wasn't a poor man, but it was the poor man's way, or a guy who couldn't get any stone, to make a wood building look like it was built out of stone. So, okay, first remodel. Here's a lithograph, so you can sort of see what the other side looked like here. It had a 1-story, this porch open. It was an open porch. This is still standing. This is the tank house. This was the playhouse. And then this was the servants' quarters. And back here you can see the barns. Second remodel. This is the Weeks remodel. Now this is still the east elevation, so let's go back. It's not going back. Oh, I'm not pushing the right button. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so this is the east elevation. And this is the east elevation. So you can see what a big difference. So William Weeks added a 3rd story. Of course, the whole roof line was changed. Where that one little 1-story bay was, now you have this rounded bay here. We have an octagonal bay there. It was just a total, well, I don't know how many rooms that Gothic Revival building had, but now Weeks transformed this into 23 rooms. It's a huge mansion. Okay, who is William Weeks? Probably don't have to tell this crowd. You probably all know who William Weeks was, but I will remind you. So, William Weeks was an architect who was trained in Colorado. He went to the Brinker Collegiate Institute, and he graduated in 1885, and started work with his father, who was a builder. He came west, he came to Watsonville, straight to Watsonville in 1894. So the Porter-Vallejo Mansion was one of his first commissions, because Porter hired him in 1895. He had only been in Watsonville for a year. So what a great plum for a commission. So Weeks was a very versatile architect. He was particularly known for his work with Carnegie libraries and schools. So if any of you are familiar with the little school up in Aromas, it's a Spanish colonial revival school. He built that one. He had a summer home in Aromas. So these are some of the Carnegie libraries relatively close by. He worked throughout California. His first office was in Watsonville, and then he opened offices in Salinas and San Francisco as well. So we have Paso Robles up there. We have Monterey down there. With Salinas no longer standing, unfortunately. It's a beautiful building. Salinas here, and Santa Cruz here. So he did do a lot of work in a lot of different architectural styles. He sort of followed the fashion. So starting out with the Queen Anne style, just, happy style. And then as taste changed, he changed too. So he went through the Spanish colonial revival, he did a shingle style period. If you go through Watsonville, you can see all sorts of different styles that he tried his hands at. So he was a very versatile architect. And he died in 1936. So here's another view of the east elevation. You can see there's a lot happening there. A lot has been added. The L is still there, though. The L from the 1874 work. Now, I wanted to point out here, this is the tennis court, but look through the tennis court. What the buildings you see there, that's Chinatown. So you can see how close Chinatown was. Very, very close. It's like across the street. Let's see if I'm, okay. Here's the parlor, when the Porters lived there. You can see that they have all the trappings of success here. They have wall-to-wall carpeting. They have their classical statuettes. They have lots of paintings. So they did not shy away from displaying their wealth. Third remodel. So let me just show here. So you can see that original 1874 porch went straight across. Part of the Weeks remodel included sort of bowing this out and then putting the paired columns there. So what happened in for the 1924 remodel? Porter had died. He died in 1900. And so this is what his daughter and her daughter's husband were doing with the house. So what happened here? Two bad things. So these were the 1874 windows, and they were down here, but they removed all those double hung windows and then put new windows here, plus these French doors. This is the west elevation here. That elevation used to look like the east elevation with that long porch, but everything was changed. I mean, that thing was taken out. And then this big two-story addition was put on. And it was for kitchen and storage. And so it's very unattractive. See? It's very unattractive. So this is what it looks like. Now, the reason I'm showing this to you, well, not only because it's part of the story, but also to illustrate some of the preservation decisions that were made based on this addition. So, as Denise mentioned, this is a National Register property. I actually did the National Register nomination, and I'm trying to think, it might have been in '87, I'm not sure. I can't remember when I did this, but I did do it at one point in time. And so we found the property eligible under criterion B, which is person, and criterion C, which is architecture. And so you have to determine a period of significance for each of those significance areas. And so the period of significance for criterion B was 1874 to 1900, so that's person. So that's 1874 was when the first remodel was started, the Gothic revival, up to Porter's death. And then for criterion C, architecture, it was 1874, the start of the Gothic revival remodel, to 1899, when the Queen Anne remodel was finished. So that Queen Anne remodel, I didn't mention, it took 4 years. It was a long project, 1895 to 1899. So that means if this was built in 1924, it's outside of the period of significance. And so, in other words, it wasn't essential, it wasn't a character-defining feature to the historicity of the property. So, disasters. This building, despite it being moved by Porter, it's like it had a "kick me" sign on its back. It's just been behind the 8 ball in the disaster department for forever, since it was built. So this is Chinatown, it's just right across the street, 1906 earthquake. So if they got a huge crater in the middle of the road in Chinatown, you can bet that the Porter-Vallejo house was rocking as well. So that's 1906. And then the following year, a flood. So this is down in Watsonville, and Watsonville didn't flood like Pajaro did. So if it's like this in Watsonville, you can be sure that Porter-Vallejo house was flooded as well. So there it is, 1907. Oh, there's Chinatown again and another flood. 1911. Oh, another flood. 1938. Oh, another earthquake. Loma Prieta. So this is in Watsonville. Watsonville was, had some heavy damage with Loma Prieta, so you can imagine what happened over at Porter too. And then there were more floods recent, 1995, 1998, and this is the 2023 flood. Here's the house. Look at that. So this is when the County of Monterey comes in. I can't. So let's go. Okay. So the Porter family, the house stayed in the Porter family for quite some time. They sold it in 1972. Wow. And then they went through a variety of different owners. And some tried to fix it up. Some tries were successful, some were not successful. And so it never really was restored to the condition that it should have been. And then in 1987, the County of Monterey acquired the property. And they acquired the property for use as offices, as well as a branch library. But you can see here that many of the character-defining features of the house still survive despite everything it's gone through, all those disasters and all those ill-informed owners. So it still has the 1874 balustrade, and it still has the nice bay there, and then it has some of the decorative shingles, little oriel window from the 1895 remodel, the Weeks remodel. So when the project started with the county, and I'll have to ask Florence later to talk about maybe how this was funded, because I don't know the whole story behind that. But the county got some money and decided that they had to fix it up. So this is what the building looked like before the work started. You can see it's not in such bad shape, but really, if you look closely, it was in bad shape. So a lot of the interior features were still intact. So many of the doors, especially on the first floor, they're all hand-painted graining. And then you can see that there's some of the light fixtures are still intact, the staircase in the front hall, and let's see, over here, this is a transom that says J.T. Porter on it. So that's all still in place. Look at this staircase. This is probably the best thing ever. This is in the billiards room, so this is part of the Weeks remodel. And it's absolutely gorgeous. So Porter hired the same woodworkers who did the Winchester house in San Jose to do the woodworking in this house. And there's a view from the staircase, so you can see that this wood paneling is still intact, as a lot of the stained glass as well from the Weeks remodel. So here's another photo of when the project started. You can see that the house sort of looks striped. What that is, it's all rising damp. It's all water. So the framing is actually bleeding through. So yes, how many floods has this gone through? I mean, at least 10 that we know of. So yes, there was some water damage. So the goal, I'm going to read the goal, the county's goal. Okay, the project goal was to repair damage to the Porter-Vallejo Mansion due to recent and past flooding events, and to adapt the building to be more resilient to flooding risk in a manner that will restore the building's historic character. So remediation, deteriorated siding and a lack of flashing around the windows contributed to most of the water damage. So a vapor barrier was installed under the siding and the flashing was added to the windows. You can see this is the 1874 scored siding, and it wasn't in bad shape. And so it was simply painted, cleaned and painted. And all this siding, the horizontal siding, it's all redwood, it's all big surprise from Loma Prieta lumber yard, which Porter owned, so. So all the siding was removed, numbered, cataloged, and stored in a dry place. For reinstallation, it was cleaned and painted on all 6 sides. If any of the siding was too deteriorated to reuse, siding from that 1924 edition was used because it matched. So here's the roof. This is the roof over the L. So this roof had been changed to comp in 1993, so the historic roofing was not on the building. So it was replaced with a comp roof again, and let's see what else happened here. So they put down a plywood substrate and a new waterproofing membrane also to protect the building. I just want to point out this little finial. I mean, that was put in 1874, and it's still there somehow. Here's the decking in the front deck. The front decking had been changed out, so this is not original material that you're seeing here. This was changed in 2013. The thing that was the same as the 1895 remodel was the pattern. And so this was replaced, but the same pattern was used. With the windows, I think this is one of the things that impressed me the most about the whole project with the contractors that worked on this project, because as preservationists, you're always battling people about windows. And this was not a battle. It was just they knew what to do and how to do it. So what they did, the first thing is they inventoried all the windows. So they were all inventoried and categorized as good, fair, and poor. There were 34 windows in the good category, 34 in the fair, and 10 in the poor. And the good and fair windows were cleaned, painted, and repaired if needed. The poor windows were, and then the poor windows were replaced with custom milled sash to match the historic windows. In the basement, a non-structural rat slab, which is just a thin layer of non-structural concrete, was poured in the entire basement area to reduce moisture and protect the grade from further deterioration and provide structural stability. So this is a public building. It's going to continue to be a library and offices. And so, and it has a 3rd floor, so another opportunity for egress had to be installed. And so the west elevation was selected for this because it's the elevation that had the most changes. There really wasn't anything really left from either the 1895 or the 1874 remodels. So, so the egress door was made to look like a little dormer, but it's differentiated from the other dormers. All the historic dormers have little hip cap roofs, and this is a gable. So there will be a staircase, and I'm thinking the stair will be up when everybody comes to see it in June. Maybe not. Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, eventually there'll be a way to get out of here. Okay. So I'm just going to show you a couple more in progress photos. So this is the rear. And here's the front. And then here's the project team. So today we have Florence and Luis here from the county of Monterey, and they were the project managers. And I'll tell you, this needed a lot of management. There's a lot of moving parts in this project, and they're the ones who kept everything moving forward. And then I just want to do a shout out with Spectra because I was so impressed. I've never worked with a contractor like that. They do all historic preservation projects. They just finished up the Hotel Del in San Diego, which is a huge project. They've done the Biltmore Hotel in LA. They did the Gambrel House in Pasadena. I mean, their resume is amazing, but you didn't really even need to tell them what to do. They just knew because they have so much experience. It was really a pleasure to work with them. And then I'll also call out the Monterey County Historic Resources Review Board. We have Judy and Sal from the Historic Resources Review Board. Yes, and there's Sal over there. Yeah. So the Historic Resources Review Board assigned a subcommittee to work with Florence and Luis. And they've been doing site visits on a regular basis. And just, I don't know, Sal, would you say it was a difficult project to oversee? I don't think so. I mean, everything was, it was a pleasure. It was a real pleasure.
Communication.
Yes, it was a real pleasure. So John and Sal sort of were riding herd in terms of the Monterey County Historic Resources Review Board. So that's it for me. Can I hand it back to you, Mimi?
Yes. Thank you very much. You see why AMAP was so impressed by this project. It's really unique in what I've seen in Monterey County. It's just so fantastic. She mentioned, now they're still working on the interior, so it's not open. There will be a ceremony, I think June 12th, where we will make the award. It's sort of a big deal. Florence might be able to talk more about it. So we'll really give the award then. I don't know what will be open because they're not really anticipating completing the interior to the end of the year, right? Yeah, so, but there will be a more formal giving of the award at that time. And so that's exciting. So, are there any questions for anybody, for either Judy?
Could we hear some more about the funding?
Oh, yes, sorry, yes. Florence?
Sure.
So Florence Kawasa Green, I'm the Chief of Facilities at the county. So I think I always look for silver linings. That's just my personality. Whenever there's something that goes wrong, I always look for silver linings, the glass half full. So with the flood, obviously that was devastating to the Pajaro Library. Just so everybody knows, you saw that photo that Meg showed of the basement area. Mm-hmm. So basically the flood went down into that basement. So that entire basement area that included all our mechanical equipment, that was all flooded out. Our fire systems, all of our main systems for the building was flooded out. In addition to, of course, the water intrusion that was going in. So, the silver lining for me was, FEMA, insurance company, and possibly any other options, to bring funding for this property. I've always felt that because of lack of funding, the county was really only able to do, patches. When there was a roof leak, we patched the roof. When we had some money, we did put in a new roof. We did try to fix some things whenever we can. But I really felt that because of the historical nature of the building, because the county, we're the stewards of this building, that we really needed to take a comprehensive look at this. So working with the architects, I said, you know what, I am done with just piecemealing. I want a comprehensive approach to this building, and with the idea that a living, breathing building is gonna last into the future. If it's just a museum, it may or may not last, but if it's a living, breathing building that people use every day, they're gonna notice when there's things that need to be fixed, they'll get fixed, and it'll keep it. So that was kind of the approach. So with that, we were basically able to cobble together funding. We were able to get reimbursements from the insurance company to deal with all of the direct flood-related issues. So all of the direct flood-related issues, we were able to get reimbursements for that. And through the state of California awarding funding, I think it was $20 million to the Pajaro city, or the Pajaro jurisdiction there, to address what was needed for that community. Through community meetings, the community decided kind of how to parse out that 20 million, and the community chose to have a certain amount of funding from that 20 million assigned to the Pajaro library to make it that breathing living facility. And do you remember about how much? I'm trying to remember about how much from AB, and that was an AB 102 funding.
It was like 3.7.
I think 3.7 million out of that 20 was dedicated. And then I just had to go to the board. I went to the board several times and presented the project and said, hey, we cobbled this together this much, and we need another about 3.7 to get us to the finish line so that we can do the improvements needed to make the second and third floor accessible. Because due to egress and ADA requirements, for a while, just the first floor was being used. So it was just unoccupied, space on the second and third floor that the community, frankly, could use. There's not that many county buildings. So that was our approach. We just cobbled together the funding, and we'll continue to do that to make sure that the property gets the attention that it needs. Yeah.
An elevator's required now?
So yes, what we did in the inside is we're putting in, not an elevator, because an elevator requires us to go down deep, but we put in a lift. So working with the architects, working with Meg, we figured out a way to put in a lift that will allow access to the second floor. So and actually the idea of the lift came from the Colton House, because I believe the Colton House has a lift on the exterior. So originally we thought, well, let's just do like the Colton House, maybe we can put a lift on the exterior, but it was became too complicated, and we wanted to make sure that it was accessible to families, all year round, and so we were able to put in a lift in the interior. And so, yeah.
Any other questions?
I have one. Florence, I didn't get a chance to ask you, but other than the structural repairs on the house, with the history of floods in that area, we know there's work going on the Pajaro River. There's still going to be floods, obviously in the future. Was there any discussion about putting drainage ditches, walls, anything else that could minimize water flow onto the property?
So that was looked at with our architectural team. However, what we didn't want to do was basically create a possible bathtub scenario where in trying to prevent the water from coming in, we're also creating like a little bathtub around the facility. So that was ruled out. I think our best bet, what we did is we moved all of that equipment, so all of the mechanical equipment, the fire system, all of that was moved out from underneath the building. So that, moved out, and then the slab was added. So that's the extent, because at the end of the day, it's still a historical property, so there's only, sometimes there's some limitations to what you can do. But yeah, that was our approach there.
So none of the water actually got into the first floor, it was basement?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, basement and up to the porch area, yeah. Yeah.
So it's amazing to understand, since the Porter-Vallejo Mansion is elevated, the water coming from the Pajaro River all the way up to it. And in the photos, it looked like there was more intrusion from the west and the south. Now, whether that's true, I don't know, but maybe just the way the water landed when the photo was taken, I don't know. But would you say that more damage was caused from rain entering the building that way? Because on the side of the building, we showed the vertical lines. Obviously, the flood didn't do that. It was rain
It was
causing all
driving
of
rain.
this.
'Cause
So,
we have- yeah.
so would you say that half and half was the source, or was there actually more damage caused from rain entering the building rather than the flood waters reaching the basement area?
Hard to quantify, but budget-wise, it's half and half, actually, interestingly. We have half, in terms of what was considered the damage directly from the flood and the rains. But yeah, that was one of the points that we tried to make with our insurance company, is that, yes, there was the flood, but there was also driving rain. And I don't know if you remember that rain before the flood. It was constant for weeks, just driving rain into the facility, which was a big issue. We haven't quantified it, but it was a pretty significant impact, I agree.
In the north side on the ground, there's like a big cover for a cistern or something. What is that?
Can you speak to that, Louise? That's that right in front, that that cover that's right in front, the cistern that's right in front. I'm trying to remember.
Was
Yeah,
it
so
not
that-
an access to the under?
Yeah, I
Right?
believe
The
so.
basement.
I
Yeah, it
believe
looked
so,
like
but
an
it's,
access.
I think it was some kind of
Yeah,
sump pump
mechanical
system
system.
that's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to double check what
Yeah.
you're, I'll have to look at that again.
Did you look into any maritime pumping system that you could put in the basement for future problems?
Like I said, we're gonna continue to gather funding, and so the next funding is resiliency, right? So what can we do to reinforce resiliency for that? And so that could be one of the things that we, look for a grant for, Another interesting thing that we wanna do is what could we, right now, the water tower that's back there, based on the funding, we're just stabilizing it, we're just mothballing it. That's the extent of what we're doing. But ideally, if we can get funding, it would be awesome to bring that water tower back to life and, and maybe as part of a resiliency, idea. Maybe it can be used in some way that will benefit, the property and the
I was
community.
just thinking about being able to get water off
Yeah.
while an event is occurring
Yeah.
and after the event occurs into some form of proper
Yeah.
drainage or
Yeah.
even into the street.
Yeah. But there is a sump pump, there is like a pumping, there is a mechanism
Did
there,
it
yeah.
function at all?
By the time we got there, it was non-functioning. I don't
Well,
know,
that's why I'm
how much
suggesting
it,
that it's
yeah,
kind of a maritime
yeah.
facility.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea, and I think that's, more to come. Yeah.
So question for Meg, as you were researching the history of the building and with the 1895 Weeks remodel, there's some amazing stained glass examples and a couple pretty special Victorian light fixtures. Did you find anything in inventory-wise, names, or could the stained glass be from one of the San Jose or San Francisco companies? Did Weeks use them for other work?
Yeah, I didn't find anything. Of course, it was a long time ago that I did the National Register nomination, and probably there's much better with the internet. There's probably a lot of better resources, research resources. The only thing we could dig up was that Winchester Mystery House carpenters, and I looked for their names, just as carpenter team. So it doesn't, nobody was named. I also thought that Gothic revival looks like somebody designed it.
Yeah.
Who did it, So I did go through some of the old Pajaro newspapers to see. Sometimes they have little articles, John T. Porter's redoing his house and so. Couldn't find a thing. But it still is probably out there somewhere because it looks like it was designed by somebody.
And our Watsonville records, are they still more intact and more there compared to, I know Salinas' records, once you get earlier than the 50s, good luck, it's.
Well, the Pajaro Valley Historical Association it maintains the archive, and they do a very good job with that. So that's where I got the initial information.
I think, I think in the flood of 38, there, quite a few records were lost in a flood of 38.
But you've got something.
But we have quite a bit.
James Perry,
You weren't flooded.
Monterey County Historical Society.
Veranda House.
Oh, Sal?
Yeah. The Assumption Church made a major remodel of their building, and we have the privilege of working with them, and we were able to design a system that will be flood-proof to all the requirements from FEMA, whereby we design a slab with a stem from the perimeter foundation of 24 inches, able to sustain the pressures of the water, and the structure is heavy timber. So it will be something similar to what could have been at the Porter House. And then we designed a system that will hermetically block the water from any opening to the building, and therefore preserving the structural integrity of the building. That could, maybe in the future, could be used with a Porter-Vallejo, you know, and just lift it up, and then it will be, a nice way to secure the building. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Meg. This has been fantastic, and thank you to Florence for everybody and your questions. I think this has been really a thrilling presentation, I can say, because it just seems, as I said, we don't have really big preservation projects here. Maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't seen in the time I've lived here anything this impressive in terms of really, going at a complicated project.
In the north.
Doing it well.
In the north of Monterey.
Right, yeah,
Salinas,
yes.
I mean, you got some.
Well, I don't know, even in the rest of the county, I don't really know. I could be wrong, I don't know everything, but,
The county courthouse.
yeah, the Cook County Courthouse is good. Anyway, so I think that's the end.
Mimi, can I just ask, when can the public visit? At the end of the year, or?
Florence, do you have any idea of when?
I'll let Luis, because he's a project manager, so he knows the schedule. So he can tell you when construction is going to be done. Then the library is going to want to outfit, the facility. So go ahead.
Yeah, so the goal is by the end of the calendar year, we're going to be done with construction. The library is probably going to need anywhere between, about, I'll say 1 to 3 months to, purchase all furniture, do all the setup, have staff ready, have everything. So I'm thinking sometime probably in March of 2027 we'll have.
Hopefully
it
we'll
will
see
be
you all at the
operational.
ribbon
We'll
cutting.
definitely keep it all posted and informed when the grand opening happens.
Good.
But that's what we're thinking, on a high level, schedule-wise, when it will be open.
Thank you very much. Thank you.